Welcome back, everybody, to today's show, where, as you noticed in the headline, the title is A Crowning Achievement or a Royal Waste of Time? Does WWE still need King and Queen of the Ring? So that's the question that has become surprisingly controversial among wrestling fans. So, does WWE still need King and Queen of the Ring? We're not asking if the tournament is good. We're not asking if the matches are entertaining. Not whether you enjoyed seeing wrestlers walk around wearing giant crowns and looking like they just robbed a Renaissance fair. No, no, no. The real question is whether King and Queen of the Ring still serves as a meaningful purpose in WWE in the year 2026. So, let's be honest. For the fan who sees King and Queen of the Ring as a prestigious tournament that creates stars, there are other fans asking, why are we doing this again? And honestly, both sides have great points. So today, I'm going to examine some points. We're going to look at the history of King of the Ring, why it mattered, why it stopped mattering, why it was brought back, whether the Queen of the Ring tournament works better than the men, the successes, the failures, and finally answer whether WWE should continue the event moving forward or put it in the trash. So, fans, put on your imaginary crown, grab that royal scepter, and let's talk about wrestling's most famous monarchy, King and Queen of the Ring. The original purpose of King of the Ring, when you think about it, it was what? The amazing speech, the one phrase, the one and only Stone Cold Steve Austin dropping the line of Austin 3:16. Well, back in 1996, a relatively overbooked wrestler named Steve Austin won King of the Ring after he defeated Jake the Snake Roberts. Austin delivered a promo that changed wrestling history. And the tournament itself didn't make Austin a star. What made Austin the star? The promo. But the tournament gave him the platform, which was important. The King of the Ring was never supposed to be the destination. It was supposed to be the launch pad. Let's look at some past winners. Bret and Owen Hart, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Edge. Now that's a ridiculous lineup. The tournament was basically WWE's way of saying, hey, everybody, remember this wrestler because you're going to be seeing a lot more of them? It was developmental for main eventers before developmental really existed. And for years, it worked. And it worked beautifully. But when something works beautifully, what happens? Then it went wrong. And then WWE became obsessed with one thing, the King gimmick. And that is where I believe the problem starts. Instead of using the tournament to elevate wrestlers, WWE started turning winners into medieval cosplayers. Let's think about it. The moment someone won, they suddenly started talking like, hear ye, hear ye. Meanwhile, fans are sitting there thinking, dude, weren't you just wearing jeans like 3 weeks ago? The most infamous example? King Mabel. The crown didn't elevate him, it became the entire character. And then we got King Booker, King Sheamus, King Corbin, and King Woods. Some worked, some did not. But WWE became more interested in the crown than the accomplishment. And once that happened, the tournament lost its prestige. Winning King of the Ring stopped meaning the wrestler is heading to the main event, and it began meaning this wrestler is about to wear a cape for 6 months and act like he's in the Renaissance Fair. That is exactly not the same thing. Well, for years, King of the Ring became WWE's forgotten child, and the tournament disappeared. It comes back and disappears again. Came back on a random episode of Raw, but guess what, fans? It disappeared once more. It was basically the wrestling equivalent of a retired rock band that really needed money, so they go back on tour. Every few years, somebody would say, "One more tour," and then they'd vanish again. Well, by the late 2010s, many fans honestly really didn't care. The tournament had lost its identity, was not producing stars. It wasn't creating championship contenders. It wasn't a major pay-per-view event, or as WWE calls them, premium live event. It was just there. And that's the worst thing in wrestling can be. It wasn't hated. It wasn't loved. It was just there. Well, WWE found a solution. We're going to call this the Revival. Was it a really smart solution? They tied the tournament to championship opportunities. Sounds good, right? Sure. Now things suddenly mattered again. Winning wasn't just about a crown. Winning meant you're getting a world title shot. Yay! Right? Yes? Which was huge. Well, because wrestling fans understand stakes, fans may not care about a shiny crown, but they absolutely do care about championship opportunities and what someone does to get that opportunity. Suddenly, every match had a consequence. Suddenly, advancing really mattered. Losing, it also mattered. And just like that, King and Queen of the Ring felt important again. Well, why the Queen's Tournament may actually be more important, you ask? I'm here to tell you. The Queen of the Ring Tournament might actually be more valuable than the men's tournament because historically, WWE has struggled to create multiple women's storylines simultaneously. A major tournament instantly fixes that problem. You create multiple feuds. You have multiple television matches. You get some character development. You find new contenders for your women's world champion. And you can do it all at one time. Sounds good, right? Instead of one title feud dominating everything, the tournament creates several stories, which in return is a huge benefit. And unlike older eras where women's divisions were smaller, today's WWE roster is stacked. A tournament gives all these performers meaningful television time. That is valuable for them to get themselves over instead of sitting in catering. TV time is very valuable. So if you only get a minute, then you need to use it valuably. There should be like 101 training there. Anyway, recent success stories about our King and Queen of the Ring. Well, first we're going to talk about the winners. Because why would we want to start talking about losers first? I don't know. Recent tournaments have generally gone to people that WWE sees as major players. Which, that's how it should be, right? A tournament should not be a participation trophy. Oh, yay! You won! Well, here's your chance. We may let you win the world title, or we may fuck you over. Not everybody needs a crown, and winning should always mean something. And then when fans see a bracket, they should generally wonder, who is WWE preparing for the next level? That's the magic of King and Queen of the Ring, right? You would think. WWE has largely rediscovered that formula a little bit. The tournament is once again functioning as a talent accelerator, not a costume contest. And I would like to call that progress. But there's an elephant in the room. And our biggest problem isn't the tournament. The problem is what happens after the tournament. Too often, WWE Creative forgets about the winners. A wrestler wins. Yay! He gets his title match. And loses. And then, nothing. That's the problem. Nothing. They're either sent back to catering or sent back down to the mid-card. Winning King or Queen of the Ring should have a lasting significance. Fans should remember who won. The accomplishment should matter a year later, 2 years later, maybe 5 years later if you like long-term booking. Because if nobody remembers, then why should the fans care? Prestige isn't created by the tournament. The prestige is created by how WWE Creative treats the winners. So should the crown gimmick continue? Me personally, no. And before anybody gets mad, I'm not saying eliminate them entirely. I'm saying use them sparingly. King Booker worked because Booker T committed to it. The man acted like Shakespeare had discovered professional wrestling. It was incredible. But not everybody needs the Booker T gimmick. Some wrestlers look ridiculous doing it. Others lost their momentum because of it. Winning should enhance a character, not replace it. The crown should be symbolic, not mandatory. So, let's give the critics their due and argue against King and Queen of the Ring being strong. Critics say WWE already has Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber. WWE already has championship contender rankings built into stories. Do we really need another path or a title shot? Or even make it its own PLE? Fair question. I get it. I really do. But at some point, too many opportunities can make all opportunities feel less special. If everyone gets a shortcut to a title match, then title matches stop feeling earned. There's the logic. But I have a counter argument on why it should continue. It does provide something other events don't. A sustained narrative. The Royal Rumble is one match, and then you have to wait until WrestleMania to get your title shot. Money in the Bank, one match. You cash it in within a year. The Elimination Chamber, one match. You get your shot at WrestleMania. King and Queen of the Ring, you get a few weeks of it. It unfolds within like a 2 or 3 week time period, depending on how they want to butch the matches. If they want to do like 4-ways or individuals, I would prefer individual matches, but here lately they want to do 4-ways to get it done faster. It gives us fans time to become invested in the brackets. And when there's an upset, it matters. If a wrestler gets momentum, it matters. We get naturally developed storylines. It's sports like, in a way, WWE rarely is. And wrestling benefits when it occasionally feels like, oh, I don't know, the C word, competition. So, does WWE need to continue King and Queen of the Ring? My answer, yeah, but only, and I mean only, if they continue treating it like a prestigious tournament rather than the costume contest. It works when it creates stars. It creates contenders. It produces meaningful stories. It leads to championship opportunities. It fails when the crown becomes the wrestler's entire gimmick. When creative forgets about the winners. When the opportunity for a title shot leads to nowhere. The modern version is far stronger than the versions that existed for much of the 2000s and 2010s. In fact, I'd argue it's one of WWE's most useful annual events right now because it gives wrestlers something that modern wrestling often lacks. A clear ladder to climb, and I don't mean literally like in the ring. Fans understand tournaments. They understand how brackets work. They understand advancement. They understand winning. And sometimes the simplest storytelling is the best storytelling. So, yes, keep King and Queen of the Ring. But just remember the lesson WWE learned from Stone Cold all those years ago. The crown isn't supposed to be the story. The wrestler is. So, let me know what you think. You can drop a comment below. Should WWE continue King and Queen of the Ring? Should it remain tied to championship opportunities? Should winners receive royal gimmicks? Or should WWE retire the crowns and focus entirely on the tournament prestige? Let me know. However, until next time, this has been Crowning Achievement or Royal Waste. I don't know. I'll let you decide. And remember, in professional wrestling, everybody wants to be king or queen until they have to wear the cape. So until then, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.